Hey guys, you're listening to Luna Stream. I'm your host, Tori Nomura, and today we have a special bonus episode for you guys. And I'm joined by my co-host, Tora Ota and Justin Darty. Tora, say hello.
Hello, my name is Tora. I'm from Las Vegas, 24 years old, and currently a youth pastor here. And yeah, excited to be here.
Justin, say hello.
Yo, what's digging my doors? No, hey guys, it's Justin Darty here. I'm 26 years old, currently located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Young adult minister here, and I'm blessed for almost 5 years now.
Thank you. So we'll be talking about something hot and spicy that's been going on, that's been brewing,
Ow.
and the point of this episode isn't to be super controversial or super debatey or whatever or argue, but it's just to express mainly how I feel about the whole situation, and just bring greater awareness and spotlight the 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 problem that's going on. So basically, what happened? What's going on? You guys are probably dying to know. Um, as y'all know, GPA, Generation Peace Academy, our church sponsored gap year program to develop our faith for young second generation after they finish high school, has been what is it going on? Meaning they've been meeting in person. They've recruited new participants for this year, and we're holding their traditional activities of fundraising, workshops, etc. And more recently, they over the with the holidays having had taken place, they've sent their participants home, to go home and celebrate Christmas and the New Year's. However, this is the juicy part, or this is the the meat of the problem at hand. There's due to the nature of GPA, everyone's fundraising. There's a lot of contact and high exposure to and potential exposure for COVID. So it's no surprise that one or two kids on a team in particular will get COVID. But I think what it's really dumb is that they held a workshop before they broke for the holidays, and it was a single day workshop where 100 or so people gathered, breaking CDC guidelines. And I don't know how socially distanced they were. They were probably arm in arm singing, yada yada yada. And depending on how big the room is, I don't think 100 people could stay 6 feet apart and whatnot. So, and I don't even know if all of them were wearing masks and whatnot. Yeah, so I think, so GPA did that, and then they sent people home. And what happens when you send people home after a super spreader event like that? People get COVID. So, and sure, you can say GPA was like, hey, when you go home, quarantine and stuff like that, but it doesn't change the fact that they held an event where COVID could be spread much more easily, and then they sent them home, and not offering them quarantine or testing people before, and not taking the proper precautions, basically. And even we can argue that GPA shouldn't have even held in person this year, and I just don't understand that why they would assume so much risk and potential and the potential loss of life for something's and how they could outweigh the spiritual growth and development of our kids over the potential physical loss of life. I think that is really absurd, and I'm really upset because there's only been this small letter that's been passed around about to our pastors. So it wasn't a public announcement of some sorts, but just more of a low-key hush-hush. Oh, here's what happened. I'm really sorry, but now I'm not sorry because I don't care enough to say anything. And that's what we'll be talking about today. That's just the rundown. And so, again, we're just trying to spotlight the issue, bring it to your attention, and discuss who's at fault, the negligence behind the thing, and how we wish the whole situation was handled. And yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I didn't even know that happened until like my friends told me. Like I would have
Actually?
never known. Yeah, because I would have never known that, people like I don't keep up with GPA or what they do or who's on it or whatever.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't know anyone personally who's on GPA right now.
Yeah.
So, like, it's crazy. It definitely does feel like it was swept under the rug. I didn't know if you mentioned like is there confirmed cases of COVID within like the GPA members?
Yeah, like so that's how I got it, right? So I feel like I was affected by GPA, albeit indirectly, and although it was my fault that I went into a situation where I got COVID via a GPA participant. Because I met them at a local gathering of BCs, and you could argue that he should have been more careful since his younger brother, who came back from GPA, had showed symptoms and stuff like that, and so he shouldn't have been out and about. But I didn't even know his brother had symptoms by the time I met him, and it's just this whole thing, I feel like just shouldn't have happened, basically. But yeah, Tor, that's how I got it, and there was at least one confirmed case, and I think more than just me, there were a handful of others who also got it as well, and now there's a participant's grandpa in the hospital. You know what I mean? Right now.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, like someone's physically dying right now. You know what I mean?
Dying.
And the only thing, and the only thing they're offering is a prayer chain. I just think it's pathetic.
So who do you think is responsible?
I think everybody involved. Even those, like especially Damien Dunkley and Mr. Kim. I refuse to call him Dr. Kim because he doesn't deserve that title. But and Dr. Young and freaking Naokimi even now, because they've they're the heads now. But I think those 4 people primarily, 5, and GPA is at fault. And
why are they at fault? What does Damien Dunkley, our former president, have to do with?
Because he's
at this very moment.
Because he's the one that greenlighted or allowed them to have the program to run the program.
Because he was president at the time.
Yeah, he was president at the time.
And then now Kimi's responsible because he didn't shut it down.
Yeah, basically, or he just let it happen. You know what I mean? And I get that GPA is an independent program and they're kind of a little bit more autonomous. But GPA, what they do goes hand in hand with the greater church purpose and our movement here. Like they're fundraising, right, every day, and I'm pretty sure all the money doesn't go directly to GPA. Some of it probably goes somewhere else too.
I don't know if like those, President Naokimi and Dr. Young, I don't know if they have much say, or I don't even know if they.
What do you mean, dude?
No, because like I don't know if they have any power over GPA. Like,
yeah.
What? How would they not? They're the continental national president national president of Family Fed USA.
because they got other things to worry about. The
I
GPA.
understand they have other things to worry about, but just as easily they could say the word and then they'd be done. Like, why do you think they went all online? Do you think it was because, you know what I mean?
I don't know if they like talk, if the leader of GPA.
Here, I just sent the letter to you guys that you should read that Naokimi sent to the pastors.
Wait, what? This happened?
Yeah, he actually sent a letter out, and it's just it's so messed up that like it's so low
What the-
key. I'll give you some time to read about it, and I'll be able to organize my thoughts right now. But in general, I'm just super frustrated and angry. Not be like and angry, and I think more so because I'm indirectly affected by it, right? And I have skin in this game because not only did I get COVID, but I passed it on to my family members, and we're not in a position where we're able to, where my mom, is able to give me my meals in my room or something because she's busy, she works, my dad works, and our house is fairly small. And like social, like trying to distance isn't super ideal, and so I think it's just BS that like this was a wholly preventable situation, and it's so dumb, and it just represents the general the movement, our movement's general gross incompetence, because they basically so many of the precautions were just glossed over. Like, why hold 100-person workshop? You know what I mean? Not even, and it wasn't even for like 3 days. It was just for 1 day. Like, what difference would it have made if they didn't have it? You know what I mean? And like the lack of testing or recognition of who has symptoms, who doesn't have symptoms, and separating them out. And offering them quarantine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's people that make $1,000 a day, who can fundraise $1,000 a day. Some people who do more. And you can't afford to quarantine a couple people. I think that's ridiculous.
Right. That's crazy. A 110 gathering that's crazy.
Yeah, and for anybody
Do we
who
have
wants
any
to read,
pictures of this event?
I don't know who to. I mean, I'm pretty sure selfie culture nowadays. If you ask anybody who was there, they'll have pictures.
Can we ask someone? Do you know anyone who attended?
I mean,
Your friend's little brother, right? What's his name?
I'll text it to you guys. I don't want to put it on record.
Yeah, no, but
I mean, they're kind of low key people too.
yeah.
There's also,
Obviously, I don't mean even if we do say his name on air, just bleep it out.
I know I don't want to edit this.
I mean, your situation, your story of how you got COVID is pretty specific. I feel like a lot of people would know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I'm not blaming GPA for me getting COVID, right? Because it was indirectly, and at the end of the day, it's my personal responsibility.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I just hate how the overall situation was handled, because I think it's stupid, because there's no one to hold accountable at this point in time, because that's just church culture. You know what I mean? And I think it goes completely against what we're taught. You know what I mean? Taking ownership, taking responsibility for our action, and like how principled that is. And it's just so backwards, and it's reflected in our leadership, right? The people who get paid to run our church, you know what I mean? And what do? They do jack for us. And I just feel like I don't feel like they care, you know what I mean? When stuff like this happens, and we can't, hold them up to the standard that we're held to, you know what I mean? And it's not
Right.
like we elect them either or anything, so we really have no say in like how they run, our church or whatever. So yeah.
Like in this particular case, I feel like GPA kind of shifted their responsibility of having the kids tested before sending them home to
Right.
the families, And I feel like that's way too late to be testing
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
people.
And I think as the program offering, the spiritual growth and guidance, I think they should be really responsible for also the physical wellness of their participants. And I think it's wrong for them to be like, hey, when you get home, don't forget quarantine and don't come into contact with other people. And if you have symptoms, yeah, you know, I feel like that's just shirking their own responsibility off of themselves and onto the participants, and just being like and it's a big middle finger to all of them, and it's just disrespecting like all of us. You know what I mean? Cause right now someone's in the hospital. You know what I mean? Someone's grandpa is dying, like on in a bed, and this is ridiculous.
Hmm.
Like there's real life consequences. I have COVID. Like multiple other families all got COVID because of a participant coming home and spreading it back to their families. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure anybody else would be super livid if they saw their mom and dad that they love like so weak and sick from such a preventable, situation. And I think it's really
Yeah.
easy for people to just be like, who cares? Like, you know what I mean? But it's just stuff like this that causes people to leave the movement. And it's even more and it's highlighted even more when we can't hold people accountable, because I feel like these 5 people, the director of GPA, former Family Fed USA president Damien Dunkley, and former Continental Director of North America, Mr. Kim, and current president of FF USA, Naokimi, and current Continental Director Dr. Young, who they just let this passively happen, and we all know how much Mr. Kim loved GPA and how he would promote it to no end. So I think for them allowing this to happen and not taking the proper precautions to begin with is super dumb. And then to just say in passing in a letter that you send out basically privately that, oh, we there was a situation, we're sorry that it happened, and now we have medical professionals and we moved GPA online. I'm like, really? Anyway, Justin, you look like you're very in a contemplative mood.
My eyes are burning for some reason, and I'm talking to that person that you mentioned on Facebook, and he's giving me the juicy deets.
All right, sick.
What?
All right, so Tora, give us more your thoughts, opinions. What do you think should have happened?
How I would have liked it to been handled or whatever.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
If a lot of this could have been preventable.
So you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with the fact that there wasn't much need for the one day. I don't know what they did at this one day workshop, how important it was or anything.
Right.
But it could have been stopped right there. But if you had to have that one day workshop where it has to be in person, has to be with everyone, then at least having them tested before they sent them home would have been, I think would have been great, because if they could have caught a lot of the positive cases, and then they could have quarantined. But now that I think about it, like even if they did find the positives, they would have to quarantine everyone.
Right. But I'm saying if they didn't hold this workshop, right? I think what you're saying makes sense, because if they didn't hold this workshop, right, and they tested everyone before they went home, then they would have found out who really needed to quarantine and like minimize one exposure, and then figure out who was exposed, right? So I think you're on the right track.
Because I don't know how long it takes now to get your test results back. Because when I had
it was 2 days for me.
That's relatively fast. Like it took me a week to get my results, but this was back in last year, July 2020. So
right.
Took me a while to get my results too.
Yeah.
About a week, both times.
Yeah.
So it's
I
pretty
took mine.
fast, but
I got.
even 2 days
Yeah.
is like kind of long because a lot could happen in two
Sure.
days.
Sure. You can argue that, but 2 days is still relatively fast. And I've taken 2 COVID tests, and they took relatively the same time, and they're the PCR tests, the lab test that you send in.
Right, but unless everyone is like acting like they are positive before they know their results, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I know, I get that, but I'm saying if because each individual team is broken up into like 5 or 7 people, right? Including the second years who are team leading. If like in one team, one person's positive, then obviously you can easily quarantine that group of people because they live in such tight quarters together. They're basically MFTing, mobile fundraising team. Um, Living in a van, going to a parking lot, selling product and
I
whatever.
see.
So I think, and if you didn't hold this workshop, they would have been really good. I don't think everybody wouldn't have been exposed to COVID. And
So they went fundraising during the 100 people workshop?
no, they were fundraising the whole time during this whole time from late August to late December.
Dang, that's really crazy then. Because if before this 1 day workshop, if everyone didn't see anyone other than their team, then it could have been they could have like
Contained it.
contained it a lot better, a lot more easier.
Exactly. So see how ridiculous this is starting to sound, and like only a handful of people know it, right? It's not. I think this problem, even though it hasn't affected the whole church, I think it's deserving of acknowledgement and what is it? Owning the fact that they messed up. That the church messed up. I think that's really important because otherwise, when you have incidents like these that are found out by the general public in a way that wasn't delivered to them by the person who committed the so to say crime, then it feels more, what is it? It feels more like betrayal, you know what I mean? That you have to find out in a way like this.
I said, how do you feel like the social distancing was handled at the workshop? And he said, not well. Sometimes we didn't have masks on inside. But obviously we had to take them off for mealtime and stuff. But in that case, we were socially distanced. So not that well.
Wait.
This is from one of the participants who contracted coronavirus from the workshop.
But did you ask him if he can use what he's saying on this podcast?
It doesn't matter. It's all anonymous.
It's anonymous. So
I guess.
I mean, and it doesn't change the fact that happened. You know what I mean? Anyway, I think you should say that you'll be talking about it, just as a heads up.
Yeah.
But I don't know, cause I'm feeling frustrated, and I feel like a lot of others who are indirectly and or directly affected by GPA also feel frustrated to some degree. I mean, obviously, I think some participants are aware and understand the fact that they also assumed risk by attending a program where, their exposure to coronavirus was is higher, and that the likelihood of them, also contracting it is higher, and like the risks associated with, doing in person, so anything in person this year with a large amount of people. So I think some responsibility does fall on the participants, but at the end of the day, I think GPA knowingly breaking these rules and even going against our own true mother, right, who even said to like halt all these activities and stuff like that worldwide, you know what I mean? Like even STF Europe, they canceled. I'm pretty sure Dun canceled as well, and there's no other programs that are being offered. So why is GPA special? Why are they allowed to, have break the rules, so to say, and defy, an order that was from our matriarch. You know what I mean? Like that breaks principle, and that's not cool.
Yeah, he said it's fine for me to quote him.
All right.
His exact words are, "Sure."
So, Justin, what do you think? You've been really quiet because I know you've been talking to a participant, and
Well, yeah, I think that especially brothers in the church are very touchy at workshops. So I feel like in general to have a workshop in person right now is, well, what we all want.
I want you to understand that it wasn't just this 1 day workshop that they also held. There's many other workshops before each throughout GPA. So, just heads up.
Yeah, but I mean, right now the one that's getting all the hot looks for the responsibility is this last one, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I understand the desire to have the workshop because we want to do it, but it is really difficult to wrangle people in on these kind of things. I as young minister, we tried online and it just was not working. Engagement was just at an all-time low.
For sure.
No one wanted us to do this kind of stuff online. So we did it in person, and we were able to do it, but we took it really seriously. We had a very, very large auditorium. I think we had less than 20 people for sure in this massive room, and everyone was 6 feet apart at almost at all times. Even for our games, we made sure to play games that did not involve people touching each other or touching shared objects.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty strict.
So like we had games that you could play on your cell phone that we can all do together, like Jackbox games and stuff like that, where we have it on the projector.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone had to wear masks at all times, and then when we did food, it was 2 people to a large table, and they're both sitting at either ends, and they're not allowed to look at each other, which is the same. Well, their masks are down and eating, which is the same protocols that the high school, the local church high school, BIA, which, well, technically is not a church high school, but a lot of church members go there.
What does it stand for?
Bridgeport International
Academy. Right?
Academy, yeah, BIA, Bridgeport International Academy. They that's what they do during their cafeteria hours. So that's why we were mimicking that, because they had success with it. So it's a little weird. It feels like you're talking to like a spy or something, because you want to talk to the person next to you, but you're not allowed to make eye contact with them. So it feels like you're like, keep it cool. Don't look at me. Let's keep looking forward. But yeah, it was really hard to do. We gave someone social distancing duty, where their duty was just to monitor the room and make sure everyone was following the guidelines. And these are all adults, young adult ministry. It's like the youngest person I think we had in the room was like 20 at any given moment, and still we had to remind people constantly. Hey guys, just keep your distance. Hey guys, don't touch each other. Hey guys, this, that, and then people would say things like, oh, but we live in the dorms together, or oh, we share an apartment or whatever. And it's like, I know, but while we're here, we got to be as careful as possible. If you feel comfortable with so and so and so and so, and then so and so comes over who's not a part of your little bubble, your COVID bubble, then there's a chance for contamination, because now if one of you gets contaminated, all of you do.
Right.
So
that's pretty dope.
It was really hard to do. So I understand. I can't imagine trying to do that with 110 people, and I can't imagine they had a space that was large enough to facilitate the necessary distancing for that many people, unless they were literally having their workshop in a basketball gymnasium, basketball court or gymnasium. There's no way that
Tor is nodding his head.
There's enough space to do that kind of stuff, and for meals, and I know if you've got younger kids in there, 18, 16, 17, they are not going to follow those rules unless you have a person per table, making sure everyone's looking forward, everyone's 6 feet apart.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like in general, people just, at this point in the coronavirus, people have just kind of, it's January 13th, 2021, right? Like, we've been dealing with this almost a year now.
Yeah. First cases came out late December, but yeah.
People are so done. with all
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
You know,
I
like,
understand the
so
mental exhaustion over it.
no, yeah. So I feel like, but people have kind of this backwards, without thinking about it, mentality of like, because I'm done with it, it's done with me. Like, because I'm over it, I'm not going to get it anymore. Like,
Right.
you know, it's been so long, I haven't got it yet. Like, whatever. And people kind of stop. It's not like they stop believing in it, but they stop being precautious. I know for
Yeah.
sure myself, when I was,
I did too. Yeah. Same.
at work in the beginning, I would wash my hands like every 30 seconds, and I was constantly putting alcohol in my hands and being really cautious and careful. When I'd give change to customers, I would make sure to not touch their hands at all. And I've become much more laxed without thinking about it. Like, just because it's just like, you just get exhausted, man, doing this stuff 8 hours a day. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
you just get to a point where you can't do it anymore.
And to preface, Justin works at Trader Joe's.
Yeah, but I'm still really careful. I never take off my mask. My never pops out. I do sanitize my hands in between customers. It's just a lot harder to remember to get it done perfectly every time now.
Right, right, right.
And so I can see the want to do this workshop, but I do think that it was really, to put it intelligently, fucking stupid. Because there's just no way to manage that many people, especially if you have teenagers involved. It's just they just don't understand consequence. Like,
Right, right.
yeah, some do, but like, you know, on a biological level, for their brains to understand future and consequence it's so difficult. And for this coronavirus thing, which for a lot of people feels kind of like a myth, because like a lot of people didn't know anyone personally until very recently. Someone who had contracted coronavirus. I remember when my church community found out that I had contracted coronavirus, every single person and their grandma was calling me to ask me what it was like, because no one had known anyone personally who had contracted
Tor's
it.
nodding his head too.
It was this exciting thing, like, oh, what's it like? So,
Tor, say it. What happened to you?
What do you mean? Nothing happened. I mean, no one. I mean, a lot of people did contact me to see how it was like, but it was, and people have told me like, oh, I haven't known anyone personally until you got it as well. But yeah, that's yeah. Right. So I agree with Justin saying like, people think that it doesn't exist because it's not within their circle.
Right.
yeah.
Or whatever.
So I think that's kind of what happened with the workshop. People kind of had this feeling of like, yeah, but it won't happen to us. Like, you know, car accidents happen every day, but I've never been in one. So like, whatever. And then they had the workshop. And again, I don't know for sure. You know, we just have our anonymous person who was at the workshop saying that
Anonymous participant.
his opinion,
or her opinion.
Yeah, in their opinion, it wasn't handled well, which is not that well. That's
It's
not a
not
great
confidence
descriptor.
inspiring.
We sometimes wouldn't have masks on inside, right? So like that's about as good as we can get. I don't know if they were distanced or properly or whatnot.
Right.
Yeah. So having said that, I do think that it's still everyone's personal responsibility. You have better judgment. Would I have gone to a 100-person workshop? Hell fucking no. No way. No way you'd find me at that workshop, because it's just too irresponsible at this moment. You know, even our Thanksgiving gathering, we did not gather in a large group. And then when we decided to do our Christmas gift
Who's
exchange, my family, my personal family,
Okay.
we all wore masks and we were careful, and we came in waves. We did not all come at the same time. We were careful about it. So I think it's like even in family stuff, and that was much smaller than 110 people. So it's the participants' fault for going just as much as it is for it being held. And I think that it's
Okay.
the participants' fault for not quarantining properly when they got home, because that's your own responsibility. According to,
Do you
at
really
least in
believe that?
Connecticut, that is the state and local guidelines, is if you leave the state, it is your responsibility to quarantine yourself for 2 weeks when you get back from wherever you came from. No one can hold you accountable. There's no way to know that you left the state and came back.
Right.
And so it could be the state's fault for letting you leave. They shouldn't have let me leave the state in the first place if I had to be quarantined when I got back. So I just feel like, my dudes, you guys, people got to be more responsible about this.
No, I understand. I understand what you mean, but you don't feel it.
I feel like the church has their 5% responsibility
Their 5%, that's
for
it.
hosting the workshop, right? For suggesting in the first place. But I feel each person had their own 5% responsibility by going to the workshop. And then those families
Well,
by
Whoa,
letting
whoa,
their
whoa, whoa,
kids.
whoa, 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 hold up. It's not like they had a choice, you know what I mean?
yeah, I don't think they had a choice.
Yeah,
Like
whatever team
usually
leader
usually
says
workshops
goes.
like that, yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's all on the higher ups.
What are
Yeah.
you guys talking about? They didn't have a choice.
Because they don't. Participants don't. They just get shepherded around by their team leaders and whatever the director, GPA, and their staff want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like where would they have gone? They can't go back to their houses because they live in a van.
Yeah, exactly.
So unless
It's-
they stayed in the van by themselves or something, then they had
I
no
don't know.
choice.
I think
Did they
you're
go to,
downplaying how much
did they go to
responsibility GPA
GPA?
has.
Did these participants attend GPA prior to coronavirus? And then they just happened to still be going to GPA while coronavirus occurred? Or did they choose willingly to go to GPA during the
Well,
pandemic?
no. GPA starts anew every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Around August. That's when they
So all these people in August chose to go to GPA. It's just,
Well, yeah, and the second years who continued
I
to.
know that it sucks to stay home. And as a teenager, I would be like, YOLO and go to GPA. But that doesn't mean they don't have responsibility in going.
No,
And
I understand.
parents are
I
just as
understand, Justin.
responsibility
I
for
understand.
sending
But
them.
I feel like you're downplaying the aspect that about how much responsibility does GPA hold and how much liability they hold. You know what I mean? And our movement. You know what I mean?
Is Trader Joe's responsible for me getting coronavirus? I wouldn't have got it unless I went to work. I definitely got it at work.
No, I don't think.
I
I
didn't
don't.
do anything.
I
other
don't
than
think
go to
you can
work.
blame them because they inform you of the proper guidelines to take. They inform you of the proper measures, and they
And then it becomes
put in
my
place.
responsibility. whether I
Right. But
go to work or not.
I'm saying the way GPA handled everything, I don't think they had proper guidelines in place. They haven't been in
I guess it's different because they're minors.
yeah, for sure. And I'm pretty sure, and the way they offered all to
And
to
it's up
fulfill
to
the
the
CDC
parents.
guidelines.
Then. I think it's the parents for sending their kids in the first place.
Sure, you can argue semantics, but I'm saying how
It's
can
not
you?
semantics. I'm just saying,
It is because it is. Look, check this. I feel like you're downplaying way too much the responsibility and or liability that GPA holds. I know it's not a lot, but I feel like
that's
the
just
way
my opinion.
I know, but I'm just saying.
My
I feel
opinion
like
can't be wrong. It's just my opinion.
I know what you're saying, but I just feel like it
That's
doesn't
your
help.
opinion.
I
give you
know,
my
I know, I
opinion.
know. I'm just saying.
Now you
I'm
can
just
state
saying.
your opinion, and your opinion can be contrary to mine, and that'll be your opinion.
I understand how Justin opinions work, but I just feel I don't think it helps that you downplay the responsibility that GPA holds or our movement holds. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones
Who are we trying to help here?
like all of us, because we can't hold anybody accountable for this. You know what I mean? I can't blame a stupid participant for being like, hey, you indirectly gave me Rona and then fucked over a lot of other kids. You know what I mean?
I think it's different. It's kind of like, okay, I went on the subway and then there was a suicide bomber and I died. Who's responsible? So, well, the
No,
suicide bomber.
that is not apples to apples though, Justin.
Hold on. I'm saying obviously it's the suicide bomber. I had no way of knowing that he was going to blow up that train that day.
Right. Okay.
And you could say, well, it's the subway system for not having better security to vet people, or whatever you want to say. And it's like, oh, well, then trains would become like the TSA, and sure, right? However, had I been notified, hey guys, we know for a fact there is a suicide bomber who will bomb one of the trains. We don't know who he's going to be or what time he's going to do it, but we know he's going to do it on this date. And then I chose to take the train anyway. I share a portion of responsibility.
No, I understand.
Certainly not
Totally
wholly.
understand.
I didn't choose to blow myself up, but I understood the risk and I decided to take it anyway. And so I just feel like this is not that extreme, but it's just a very clear example why I gave that. Where, all right, you know that there is a pandemic going on where you can get coronavirus, and then coronavirus can hurt you or kill you, right? Depending on pre-existing blah, 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 age, whatever. So it's like, okay, do I want to go to GPA? I know that there's a risk. I know I'm taking a risk by attending GPA because I will be interacting with other people outside of my family, and I will be interacting with, I'll be fundraising and all that kind of stuff. And you understand, and then you decided to take that risk. Is GPA responsible for hosting it? Absolutely, because you can't choose to take that risk if they didn't give you the option. Should they have tried to do something online? Absolutely. I think for sure. However, I don't think that GPA or the Family Federation hold 100% responsibility or even close to the majority when it comes to responsibility on this. Each person chose whether or not to be there or not. And their parents, if they were minors, supported them in doing so. And so
Okay.
I just think
Okay.
like, yeah, was it a bad idea? Certainly. But I don't think that the church is wholly responsible or even has the majority share in the responsibility.
No, I doubt that, because
It's not.
how are you gonna go
It's
against?
my
How are you gonna go
opinion.
against? No,
You
True Mother
can't
even
doubt my
said.
opinion. It's just my opinion.
I know, but I'm
Give
just
your
saying
own opinion.
when I'm listening to you, it just doesn't make sense, because True Mother even, like, canceled, halted all things, right? And she told everybody else around the world, like our movement
It's a day
specifically,
of halting all things.
yeah, that we're halting all things and stop. Just stop. You know what I mean? Like, how is GPA gonna be able to be more special and be like, yeah, fuck True Mother, we're gonna do our own thing. You know what I mean? That's, I think, them willingly and knowingly breaking those rules and going through those mental gymnastics to be like, hey, actually, yeah, we're gonna assume these risks and we're actually gonna offer these to the participants this year. You know what I mean? This experience, even though we're not gonna change anything. And I think that's the biggest, for me, the biggest thing where I feel like I can put my blame onto GPA, or like, they hold responsibility, is because they didn't offer guidelines. They didn't tell the public how they were going to run GPA this year, how it was going to be different, and like enforcement of those said policies. Because I can't blame Trader Joe's for not, like, I can't hold Trader Joe as responsible, right? If you get corona, or if I'm pissed because you got corona, Justin, because they have these guidelines in place and they have these enforcers who are the managers, blah 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 blah, who are representatives of the company who will make sure that shit happens the correct way, right? But I think in GPA, because they didn't have that I know of, right? And from our not testimony, but from firsthand experience that we've reported on, I think they were very negligent, and you could say those guidelines didn't mean jack to them. So I just feel like they willingly disobeyed these guidelines and did not enforce them. So I feel like, even though, yeah, people have their own responsibility and stuff like that, this situation that was preventable is solely on their hands in a way.
Right. I mean, it's not. My opinion here would be that it's not the responsibility isn't going to be held on just one party or the other party.
For sure.
It's definitely like a part individual responsibility, part organizational responsibility. But it still goes to show that there were points, at certain points there was like an opportunity for them to catch or stop the spread, but it didn't happen. Whether it was organizational or whether it was individual. Like, just like Justin said, it was their choice to go to GPA, and it was GPA's choice to hold this one-day workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also the responsibility of the family to quarantine the kids that came home before they went out,
Right.
and have a 10 to 11 person gathering. So it's it's a lot of people's fault, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand, but I just think, as an organization that should worry about the welfare and health of each participant and stuff like that, I think you assume I just think your portion of responsibility matters a little bit more, and that being neglected and not understood is egregious, a violation of our trust, and why we're having this conversation.
I don't know if GPA like advertised like things will be different, like especially when they were recruiting, like it, if everything was the same, if all the activities and stuff like that were still the same when they advertised it back in summer, then I feel like a little bit more responsibility falls on the individual, just because they knew the risk.
Yeah, for sure.
And they knew that GPA wasn't gonna change anything despite being in a global pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
Yeah.
the point wasn't to point out who's to blame, right? It's just to bring
Right.
light to
Right.
this situation that we find
Yeah.
ourselves in within our movement. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So 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 we all agree that it was a very um tragic scenario that could have been avoided, right? And what do you guys want to happen as a result? Like, what do you think should happen now that we're here and again, you know what I mean?
What do you think should happen?
I feel like
With-
there
I
should be
don't-
public. There should be public acknowledgement. There should be apology at the least, right? Because I feel like the way they addressed this problem was so low key and very private, almost private like, right? Which I was saying earlier, and I just believe that like acknowledgement of this is key, apologizing for it, and I don't know if anyone's gonna be able to get fired for this, because who else would take GPA over? You know what I mean? If in people's minds, this isn't a big deal because a lot of our church members are conspiracy theorists and don't believe coronavirus and whatever. But
right. I definitely think that it should be public and they should take ownership of their actions.
yeah, I think it's
Yeah, because like for me, someone who has no connection to GPA would have never known if that this even happened until someone told me about it. That's not in leadership or whatever. These are just friends, secondhand testimonies, or yeah. So it would definitely do wonders if they were to come out publicly and say what happened, and then take responsibility and apologize or something, you know.
yeah. I mean, for me, like again, best case scenario, someone gets fired, stuff changes, and like we're more cautious moving forward, and more strict, because I think as a member that loves this movement, I'm forgiving in a way to be able to overlook some things. But if this was like highlighted on a national level, we would have been eaten alive. You know what I mean?
And I also understand like the want, like Justin said, I understand the want to have a physical workshop instead of having an online one, because I'm struggling with that right now, where as a youth pastor, it's like I want to gather with the children here, but I know the risks, so I'm not holding any gatherings, especially because these kids are underaged, high schoolers, middle schoolers, and it's hard to keep them in control and whatever. And I definitely don't like online youth groups, just because it's so much harder, to set stuff up, make sure everything's right technologically or
Right,
technically.
right. But I'm just yeah.
But I understand their frustrations.
Yeah.
But we're still in a global pandemic, and you have to sacrifice some things.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that they didn't. I like that I know of. They didn't consider any other options or alternatives or whatever, because you know what I mean.
Do you know what they do in, like, typically in these end of the year workshops? Like, is it tradition or something?
Yeah, well, for I can only speak on what I've seen and my experiences with STF. But yeah, before we break for the holidays on STF, we would have a gathering, exchange gifts, whatever, and have a testimony night where each person from a team will talk about their experience from the past condition and whatever. So I think it's something similar along those lines. I'm pretty sure they just wanted to have like a kind of farewell, Merry Christmas kind of atmosphere before they broke for the holidays again.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm just so frustrated, and like every time I want to tell somebody, or or if I want to like voice my opinions or somewhere, it just falls on deaf ears, and it's so, and that just, what is it, further creates further frustration, and I'm in this endless feedback loop because we have no form of like a public forum or for like, you know, any way to rein in our public officials, so to say.
And it's also not a good look for future GPA because, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical now to send people, or like even though I don't personally encourage kids to go to GPA, just solely on the fact that I haven't gone and I have no experience with GPA. But before I would be like, yeah, I would. My feeling was I would definitely want kids to go to GPA because that's a great spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
experience
Mm-hmm.
for their growth of their faith and stuff like that. But now, if I know that GPA is not handling COVID seriously, then it makes me question, like, kind of like their leadership and their organization as a whole when
Right.
they aren't able to adapt to what's happening
Yeah, the
around
credibility
them.
takes a hit.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if that's like if that's why they're not, publicly apologizing or whatever. I
Yeah,
mean,
but they didn't.
the reasoning could be a lot of
Right,
things,
right,
but
right.
yeah, it sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I got gypped. I got duped, and like by and like and I know like the person who did it's not gonna say anything. You know what I mean? Like if you got mugged, right? The mugger's not gonna be like, you're gonna be pissed at the mugger, and the mugger is gonna be like, hey, he's not gonna apologize or whatever. And I just feel like that's what happened.
But this isn't a mugger. This is a organization
Yeah,
of
I
the
know that's
church.
which furthers my frustration, and it's just so dumb on so many levels. And I think Justin has echoed same sentiment as well. I think he's just quiet now, but
I mean, I just don't think that I've never felt that way, that the organization holds so much responsibility for these kind of things. It's just like,
dude, I think you're twisted, man. If the
yeah,
But
that's great that you think that, Toy, huh?
I
But
know,
it
I know.
doesn't,
it's just
I just
an
don't.
opinion. There's
I'm just
no
saying. I just understand where you come from, because it's like, what do you?
because I just think that we hold our own responsibility, man. No one, no one is forcing you to do these kind of things. I just feel like there's plenty of things that happened this year that I just didn't go to, and it's like, well, they shouldn't have been held in the first place. Like, yeah, but I didn't go to them because I knew the risks. And I was like, yeah, nope,
Okay.
I'm good.
I mean, I think that's what we find ourselves in, like, the global scale, or at least nationally, is like a lot of people are doing their job, not going to things, staying at home,
Right.
quarantining, taking all of the
Other people
precautions.
are going to 10 to 11 people gatherings with no masks on with their
Right. So
friends, and they're getting
there's lots of
coronavirus.
there's lots of other people out there who's going about their lives normally without taking any precautions, and
Yeah.
which like lengthens the time that we're in this
Mm.
pandemic.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like, again, it's just for people who can't make that decision, or who need to be like forced to make a decision, not forced, but like who need to be guided to make a decision. I think it's just really irresponsible for an organization to do such an irresponsible thing. You know what I mean? That's completely preventable. One, that's completely preventable, and then two, not taking proper guidelines and countermeasures and stuff like that. And then, so I feel like, yeah, personal responsibility does weigh a lot, but in this case, because in this case, it's not everyone has a capability or capacity to think of long-term consequences and understand their own risk. I think it, again, because of that, it falls more on the organization, and for them to be able to offer something like this and then to, you know, advertise it as something super flashy or whatever, and it just, again, like, yeah, it
Yeah.
dude, it's just I think it's messed up.
Yeah.
Because, like, they facilitated it. They allowed this to happen, and I just feel like, yo, they get called out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think your statement on someone deserves to get fired is a tad overkill.
Sure, sure, yeah,
You would be happy if someone got fired. I was like, ooh, wow. Okay.
yeah. Because there's no real consequences in our church for someone who royally screws up. You know what I mean? And I think there's no precedent, there's no example, and it's messed up. Like, the only real thing that happened was Ingenim getting screwed over or getting fired, and that's because everybody felt deceived. And I think, like, that's such a double standard. You know what I mean? Although obviously this and that is not on the same purpose, but, you know, someone's dying, so who knows? Who cares?
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, what do you think? What do you want to happen, Tora?
I already said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What, you know what I want to happen? To end this podcast.
What?
This recording.
Sweet. All right, we'll wrap it up there. All right, thanks, guys. Again, big takeaways is food. This is basically food for thought. What do you guys think? Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? What do you guys want to happen? And we're just spotlighting this egregious misconduct that was performed, that I think we all agree upon. Yep. So, thank you for listening. And
Jew.
Jew.
A Jew.